Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this first installment of a three-part series entitled Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, brought to you by MRPA, featuring Kimberlee Williams. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some housekeeping information. Please keep your videos on if you're able to, and keep your microphones on mute unless Kimberlee says otherwise. Additionally, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I see a lot of familiar faces. Hi, everyone. All right. If you're attending this session for CEUs, please stay with us to the end of the session and we will provide brief instructions on how to receive your code for today. And now, a quick introduction to our speaker. Born in nation's capital, a hub of diversity, Kimberlee has had a heart for the perceived underdog for as long as she can remember. Growing up in and around communities filled with diversity of every kind, she frequented conversations, workshops, and events where topics of equity and inclusion were explored at great lengths and in depth. After teaching and participating in diversity initiatives for school communities for over 15 years, Kimberlee branched out and started doing this work in the greater community. Presenting at local and national conferences on topics of social justice, inclusion, and belonging, Kimberlee has always sought opportunities for professional and personal growth and brought the same magic to her workshops and events. She continued to bring this work to local and national organizations, as well as one-on-one in sessions in her coaching practice. Kimberlee and her partner now resides in Washington, where she is the director of Intercultural Affairs at the Bush School in Seattle. MRPA, let's offer a warm virtual welcome home to Kimberlee.
Thank you, Oban. I am giddy being with you all today. I was sharing with Oban and Sean yesterday that I do a lot of presentations and comes with the territory. And I'm most excited or most giddy about this presentation because it feels like coming home. I was born in Washington, D.C. and lived there for most of my life. In Prince George's County. I worked in Montgomery County at the local YMCA there on Colesville Road for many, many, many years. My entire family, all of my siblings worked for the Colesville Road YMCA. So I feel like I'm coming home to like a dinner party. I'm so excited to be with y'all today. So if y'all let me go on about being from the DMV, we'll spend the whole time talking about that. So I'll move on. Thank you, Ovan, for that introduction. I really appreciate that. So I am at the Bush School out here in Seattle, and I'm super excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because the stories that come out of these conversations are so unpredictable, and none of them no two stories is the same or has the same theme. And so I'm just really excited to share with you all about encounters today. And sometimes we've had encounters and we don't even realize we've had them until this conversation, until the intimacy of this conversation in this workshop setting. So I always tell people every conversation that I lead with the same narrative. This work, the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion seems difficult. It seems challenging. And one of the reasons that it seems challenging is that we don't trust each other. And we don't trust each other because we don't know each other. And so I always start by giving you the chance to get to know me in a way that you would probably never read these things online or in Ovan's introduction. I share every time I lead a conversation or a presentation, I give you the chance to get to know me a little bit better than you would by reading my bio or listening to someone read about me. So I call it random facts. I truly believe that some of your strongest relationships in your life are the people that have the largest pile of random facts about you. Sometimes those are happy facts like marriage and children and jobs and graduations. And sometimes those are scary facts like, oh, I got a call from the doctor and I'm waiting on some test results. Sometimes those are sad facts. And I'm sure we all have shared some of those in this pandemic time. Right? It's the biggest pile of just random facts. And so I'm going to share some random facts with you all today about me. My mom, and of course my phone would ring while I'm in the middle of a presentation. All right, so My mom has 4 kids, or 4 children. We're all adults now. And all of us who were 3 out of 4 of us were born premature. We, to this day, support the March of Dimes. And the 3 that were born premature were all born on the 26th of the month, 2 months apart. So my older sister was born the day after Christmas, December 26th. My younger brother was born on February the 26th, and I was born on April the 26th. So that is a random fact that most people do not know about me and have not read in my bio or on the website. So now you know me a little bit better than a lot of people in the world. And you might be wondering about that 4th kid. She was not born on the 26th. And she feels left out. She calls it, just recently, she calls it our 26 like agenda. So, and I will share that my brother's daughter was born 4 minutes after the 20, his first child would have been born on February the 26th on his birthday. She's born 4 minutes into the 27th. And we were like, come on, another 26 baby, but it didn't happen. So it was close, but it didn't happen. So that's my random fact of the day. So tips, I always like to leave people with tangible doggy bags that you can take today and use today. And so we will, and I'll call those tips throughout the presentation. I always like to set just norms or some rules of engagement. Be open. And I know that's easier said than done. Assume best intentions. No one, including me, no one came on this call today with the intention to hurt you or offend you in any way. So assume best intentions, and what I'd like to call sharing the air. Something that, especially in this country, that we love is closure. And we want that bottom line. And like, well, if Kim's going to be here for an hour, I hope at the end of the hour, I walk away with closure. Part of my work is getting people to be okay without closure, because when is DEI work ever really finished, right? Okay, so disclaimers. We will not solve all of our problems today, but we do have to start somewhere. People are like, are you going to give me the magic wand to fix everything? No, not today, not in an hour, I'm not. All right, number 2, faux pas. We all make mistakes, including me. People think because I wear the director hat that and because I'm on the microphone that I never make mistakes. I do every day. And I share openly those mistakes so that people know it's okay to make these mistakes and to get better. So if we have superstars on the call that like feel like they're advanced where DEI is concerned, like through the roof advanced, I want you to be patient, because those tend to be the folks that like jump in and want to share right away, right? I want you to be patient and let those folks that that might not feel as advanced to share as well. And then togetherness. We need each other to do this work. I can't do this work without you all, and I hope that you invite me to help you all do this work. We need one another to be able to do this. Okay. Plan for today. We're going to do a little bit more of random facts and belonging. We're going to talk about encounters and what they are. I'm going to make time to hear about your encounters, and then we're going to share out. And then at the end, we're going to do a little bit of Q&A. And I just want you to know that I'm always an email away. And I do respond if you send me an email. I promise. All right. So let's talk about belonging and affinity. So sometimes affinity gets a bad rap. Like people hear the word affinity and they're like, oh, what is that? Like, no, you're not going to make me go to an affinity group, right? But really what affinity means is me too, right? That's all it means, is me too. It means that you and I share a story. We share an experience, a lived experience. Maybe we share a history, right? So that's all that affinity means. It means me too. Now, if somebody heard that definition and said, that's definitely not what affinity means, that's Kim Williams' definition for the day. Okay. All right. So I can't see all of you, but I feel like you can see me, and Ovan probably has a good view on the landscape here. And so we're just gonna run through these really quickly. And I just want you to pop your Zoom hand up, and your Zoom hand gives us that me too. I'm gonna take it as a high five, boom. All right, so first fact, my favorite color is yellow. Did anybody just have a me too moment? Did you put a Zoom hand up? I can't see, I can't see.
I didn't see anybody yet. Let me check. No one. Wow.
Nobody. Am I the only one on this call whose favorite color is yellow? Okay, I'll take that. I'll be the lone yellow person here. All right. Pets. I have 2 dogs. Oh, I see a hand. Oh, lots of hands. Lots of hands. This is a me too. Me too. Right? We share some affinity. That means you know what it's like to walk a dog in the rain, or to pick up poop when the grass is wet and the poop like sticks to the grass. Like, you know, we have a shared experience. You know what that is about. So we share some affinity. You know what it's like to go to feed the dog and you didn't realize that you needed to order dog food. And you're at the bottom of the barrel. And you're like, oh, you might be hungry this morning. So all of that is affinity, that you understand what my daily lived experience. You know what it's like to be too tired to take a dog out to use the bathroom. This morning, I started my workout at 4:30 in the morning, and my little dog started vomiting right at the beginning of my workout. I was like, can I just get my workout in? So you understand that. That's affinity. All right. What about siblings? I've got 3 siblings. Anybody have a me too moment there? Yep, I see that. I see that. So you know what it's like to share, or people being in your business when you don't want them in your business, or you wanting them in your business and they have so much going on in their business that they don't even know what your business is, right? Yep, you know what that's like for like the last piece of cake to go to somebody else. You know what that's like. You know what that's like. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You know what it's like to compare birthdays and presents received. Yep. You know what that's like. You know what it's like to be like, get that phone call in the middle of the day that something's going on in your sibling's life and you're at work and you're panicking. You know what it's like. We have a shared experience. That's affinity. That's affinity, right? All right. Hobbies. I love to dance. Dance was most of my life for most of my life. I actually ran the dance program at the YMCA on Colesville Road and the dance camp over the summer for years. So now you know a little bit more about what I was doing at the YMCA. Oh, we got some dancers in here. So you know about injuries, you know about icing and heating, you know about biofreeze and the chiropractor, you know about stretching, you know about waking up one day and say, oh, I need to start practicing my splits again. Right? So thank y'all for sharing those Me Too moments. I feel like I have new family members right here on this call. All right, let me skip along here. Tip number 1, get ready to put something in your doggy bag. Get your doggy bag ready. Tip number 1, what's in a name? What's in a name? The next time you get to interact with someone from our MRPA, I want you to ask them the story of their name. When you ask someone the story of their name, it is likely that you get to know them a little bit better, and you're more likely to remember that person's name, and you're more likely to pronounce it correctly, and you're more likely to spell it correctly, right? And why is a name important? I'll share with you, just recently I was in a store and a little boy ran up to me and said, my name is Josh, what's your name? And this was a toddler. I'm a stranger to this person, right? And this is the first way that we get to own who we are. It's like one of those first identifiers that we get to own who we are. And so when somebody calls us the wrong name or mispronounces our name or misspells our name, it somehow messes with the ownership of our identity, right? Something like the hairs on our neck stand up and we're like, oh, what did you call me? Right? So I want you to ask your colleague or your maybe your cousin or maybe your neighbor the next time you're with them, hey, what's the story behind your name? I'm just curious. And sometimes I lead by saying, will you teach me how to pronounce your name? And what's the story behind your name? I'm so curious. Right? And so in my organization, my name is spelled wrong every day. And if you didn't get a peek at my name, I'll go back and show it to you. My name is spelled wrong every day. And I get an email every day that says, Dear Kimberlee, with an LY on the end of it. And so as annoying as it is, I get a chance to share the story of my name every time. I made an agreement with myself last year. I said, I will no longer allow people to spell my name wrong without sharing the story of my name. So I have the same response to every person that writes me and spells it wrong. And I say, thank you so much for reaching out. My mom thought it would be really cool to tack my grandmother's middle name onto the end of my name. So I feel that my grandmother is with me everywhere I go. And when you spell my name with an L-Y, you separate me from my grandmother. And then people are like, oh my gosh, right? Like, and they never spell it wrong again because they've had the chance to listen to the story and how I became Kimberlee, right? So I do get questions like, how do you pronounce it? And then that's a whole different story. So I want you to think about when you struggle, and I've had people say, well, can I just call you K? Because then I won't spell it wrong. Sure, you can write that, but you've got to look at me, look at the package that I was born in, right? I was born in this brown package where we have a history in this country of taking away people's names and saying, oh, your name's Kimberlee, I'll just call you K, right? Or I can't pronounce your name, so I'm just going to call you Sue. Oh, well, your name's a little tough to pronounce, so I'm just going to call you David, right? So I want you to ask people, what is the story behind their name? And ask them, will you teach me how to pronounce your name? Yes, that's your first doggy bag item. Boop. All right, we're moving on. Let's talk about encounters, y'all. This is one of my favorite topics. And I don't know if the stars just aligned quite right and my life just made it so that I would have enough encounters in my life to enjoy talking about encounters. So let's talk about encounters here. And I'll take this really slow because I want y'all to digest it. And then I'm going to give you what my best friend is also from Washington, D.C. She will say, can you break it down to the Barney level, Kim? So after this one, I'm going to give you the Barney level. So here's what I think an encounter is. An encounter is an event or an incident that happens to you or to someone you love that forces you to see, to feel, or maybe even experience discrimination in a way that your privilege previously prevented. Now, sometimes people get hung up on the word privilege. So let's break that down to a very simple definition. Privilege is not about feeling guilty, not at all. Privilege is the layer of your identity that you never think about, right? What do I mean? I have a friend who survived cancer, and all of a sudden she had to figure out wigs and head wraps and all these things. And watching her go through that, I felt the sting of my privilege. I didn't feel guilty, right? Because I have a head full of hair, but I realized I never go out thinking about what scarf should I put on my head to cover the fact that people might judge me as a woman walking around without hair. And I said, whoa, wow, that's my privilege. Whoa, I felt that little twinge there. So it's a layer of your identity that you never have to think about. That's privilege. We all have it, right? All right, so something happens to you or to someone you love that just puts discrimination on a silver platter for you and says, woohoo, have you ever seen me before? And it blows your mind in a way where you're like, wow, I never heard that. I never saw that. I never felt that before, right? And so let's break this down very, very, as my friend would say, to the Barney level. You thought one way, whether you realized it or not, you thought one way, then something happened and you thought something different, right? I didn't know that I was thinking that, hey, whoever has to go out and think about what they put on their head. And then my friend survived cancer. And then I said, oh my God, people have to think about this when they wake up in the morning and get ready for work. People have to think about this. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize it. So that's my Barney level definition. Okay, all right. So let me give you some examples to just clear this up. If you're still thinking, like you're still sitting, you're wrestling with it, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I want to give you some tangible examples. So As a graduate student at the University of Maryland in College Park, I am a Terrapin through and through. I saw some thumbs up there. Yes, I was sitting in a graduate class. My master's is in English as a second language, and the teacher was from Japan, and she came in with a book that was written in Japanese, and she started passing down through the aisles with the book and yelling or projecting her voice in a way that felt like she was yelling to me and pointing to the pictures in the book and speaking Japanese. And like my heart was racing, like my hands were sweating. I was like, what? I don't even know what this book is about. Like, and then when she finished, she read the whole story too. She didn't just do like 2 pages. She read the whole book. And when she finished, she said, now, how did that feel? And most of us in the class were students or people born in the United States of America with English as our first language. And I had tears in my eyes because I felt stressed out. I told her, I feel stressed. You stressed me out. And some people said, I feel anxious. Some people said, I feel scared of you. I thought you were yelling at me or angry with me. And she said, and that's what students who come to our country, or they come from communities where English is not their first language, and they sit in our classrooms, or they interact with us in stores, or they're in movie theaters or wherever, and people talk to them or explain things. That's how they feel. And all of a sudden, my heart was broken and y'all have to know something you know about me. I'm an empath, huge empath. My heart was broken for these people all of a sudden. And this is something I never thought about before. And I grew up speaking English and Spanish. So, because I was very close. I went to school in Hyattsville, Maryland as an elementary school student. Everybody spoke Spanish. So, and our nanny didn't speak English. So I grew up speaking 2 languages. I should have had a background that said that I would understand this right away. But it was this encounter that brought these feelings up for me. It was this encounter, right? I had no way to understand her. I had no way to ask a question. I didn't have an interpreter. And she was speaking a language that I didn't know or understand. So I want to give you a medium example. Many years after or a few years in the 2000s, I moved away from Maryland. I moved down to live on the beach in South Carolina. And I will say the job market was a lot tougher down there. And I will tell you that I grew up with a very strong belief that homeless people were lazy. They were lazy. They didn't try to find a job. They didn't want to find a job. They just didn't work hard enough. And then one day I became homeless. I had a job. I fell ill. And then all of a sudden, my medical bills were piling up, piling up, piling up. I was choosing which bills to pay, and I ended up homeless. And in those times where I was figuring out where I would sleep, what I would eat for the next meal, I said to myself, wow, I've been judging folks wrongly, because this happened to me because I had a stack of medical bills that I can't pay. And that's what led to my homelessness. Not because I was lazy. I had a job. Not because I was lazy. Not because I wasn't working hard enough. Not because I wasn't trying, but simply because homelessness, the path to homelessness is 1 billion different stories. And there I was living as a homeless person or someone without a home. And my mind was opened that, wow, I certainly held the belief about homelessness before this happened to me. That was my encounter. That was my encounter. Right? And let's go super large. Let's go super large. I just told you that I ran the dance program for the YMCA. I danced my entire life. Every day I spent at least 2 hours dancing. Most days I spent 4 hours dancing. Either I was practicing for my own performances, I was choreographing for students or young people, I was putting on dance shows, whatever, I was taking kids to dance competitions, whatever it was, I've always been involved in dance in some way. And so fast forward to the year 2016, I went to a dance practice where it was 2.5 hours long. The practice went fine, went without a hitch. We had a show coming. a recital coming to put on the stage. And I woke up the day after this practice and I swung my feet around the bed and I hopped out of bed to, head to the bathroom or, your normal routine. And I couldn't walk. I crashed to the floor. And I said, well, I'm getting old. Let me shake it off. And I jumped up and I tried it again. And I fell to the floor again. Panic set in like a flood. I had no idea what was wrong with me. I had no idea what had happened because I had a completely normal day the day before. I had gone to dance practice. I had danced for a few hours. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, oh my God, I can't walk. And she says, what do you mean? What happened? I said, nothing happened. I just woke up. I woke up like this, and she's like, what? Well, get off the phone with me and call an ambulance. I'm like, no, I don't even know what to tell the ambulance. And she's like, tell them the same thing. You can't walk. So I have to call my supervisor and say, I don't know how I'm going to get to work because I can't walk. And she's like, and everybody's asking, what happened? I said, nothing happened. I woke up like this. So literally from one day to the next, I went from being an able-bodied person to someone living with a disability. And if I had more time to be on this call with you, I'd tell you the whole long story. But the long story short version of it is I had gone into complete tendon failure. And I had to learn how to live life as someone with a disability. So all of a sudden, I couldn't get to my bathroom to use the bathroom. I couldn't get in my shower. I couldn't drive my car. I couldn't get to my car. Forget driving it. I couldn't I couldn't get to my closet to get my clothes, to put my clothes on, to get in the ambulance, to go to the hospital, right? Like all these things that I just had never thought about, because guess what? That was a layer of my identity that I never thought about. It's a corner in my life of privilege. I was born into an able-bodied body. I did not have a disability growing up. But then as an adult, I was dumped into the world of people who live with disabilities. And so what did that show me? Not just the troubles that I had at home. All of a sudden, I started noticing, now as an able-bodied person, I complained about this. Why does the Walmart have 12 handicap spots? Right? I told you, I share my mistakes openly. Then I was dumped into the world of people living with disabilities. And I said, how is it possible that this place only has one handicap spot? How is it possible that in a handicapped stall, the stall is not wide enough for a wheelchair? How is it that the stall has the toilet on one side and the toilet paper on the other side in the handicapped stall? All of a sudden, I noticed these things, right? Something happened to me in a way that it forced me to see, to feel, and to experience discrimination. And I'll go back to that slide, to feel or experience discrimination in a way that my privilege as an able-bodied person, my privilege as someone who has always lived in a home, never been homeless, my privilege as someone who speaks English natively in the United States of America, right? My privilege prevented me from seeing these things. Those were my encounters. And here's the thing, I could go on and on and on with examples, but I want to take a moment, and we're going to take a moment in just a second. I want to give you some time to think about your stories, your layers of identity. And have you had an encounter? Have you had an encounter where your eyes were opened in some way that you didn't expect because your privilege protected you from thinking about it, right? Or seeing it, or feeling it, or experiencing it, right? And so before we do that, I want to fill your doggy bag again. This is tip number 2. It's going in your doggy bag right now. I want to gift you, G-I-F-T, gift you the question, who is missing? Who is missing? If you're on a committee, you're on a board, you're a part of a book club, you're a part of a circle, you're a part of a team, right? I want you to ask, who is missing? I want you to take attendance. Who's missing? right? You do like a fire drill, you get outside and you're like, is anybody seeing, oh man, I thought he was supposed to be with us, right? So who's missing? And here's what I mean. When you make a decision for your organization, you make a decision for your team, you make a decision for your group. And I'll give you a mistake that I told you, I'm very open about my mistakes so that you can say, oh, Kim is in this with us. She's not speaking from outside the pit. She's in the pit with us. I planned this amazing activity. Thought it was great. Most people thanked me for the activity. I was like, yes, that, when you do something, you're like, that was good, right? Then somebody sent me an email. So I'll tell you what I did. I said, listen, we were talking about race. And I said, when a person of color, this was pre-COVID, this is before COVID. So please, this is like the disclaimer, do not try this at home. I said, when a person of color hugs me, it fills me with a life force or an energy that says, I see you. And I want to teach all of you, no matter what background you are, how to give one of these hugs. So we did this whole demonstration. Everybody stand up and let's give hugs. And so then I got a message in my inbox that was like, so Kim, most people loved that activity, but I had a full-on panic attack because I am an introvert and cannot stand hugs. Do you see the blind spot there? I am completely extroverted, love hugs, and this was like a bonus track. This wasn't even like the meat of the presentation. This was a bonus track. And the person was like, can we never do that again? Because, and so I had to send out an apology message to say, somebody shared with me my blind spot. And when people point out my blind spots, my answer is always the same. Thank you so much. I didn't see it. And I can let y'all borrow that. Somebody points out your blind spot, say, thank you so much. I didn't see it, right? So there I was. Who was missing in my planning? Introverts were missing in my planning. So who is missing in the event that y'all are planning? Who's missing on the team? Who is missing in the policy that y'all are writing? Who's missing? Whose voice? Whose perspective? Whose lived experience, right? There I was forcing everybody to hug each other. Goodness. So now I want you to take some time to think about your life and your encounters. Have you had an encounter? Large or small? Don't listen to my encounters and think, well, I don't have nothing like Kim has. I haven't been homeless or nothing. It doesn't need to be that dramatic or drastic, right? Someone shared in my the last time I gave this presentation that they thought that people who worked on trash trucks were uneducated and had come from lower class, right? And then as a teenager, they took a job as a trash truck worker, and the person that they were paired with was like, had several college degrees and was just brilliant. And they were like, whoa, like I assumed this person was uneducated and poor, and there I was judging this person without knowing their story. And so when we get to share our encounters, we get to really begin to see each other. So next time you see my car in the state of Maryland and you see my handicap tag hanging from the mirror, you'll know that there's more to the story that I started with you today, right? So I want to give you about 60 seconds to identify one encounter that you've experienced in your life, big or small, large, medium, small. And I want you to be ready to share about that. We're going to go to breakout rooms. I think Sean is going to organize breakouts for us. And let's take about 10 minutes. Sean, can we make the group small? Can we do pairs?
We can absolutely do that. We can do two, we can do three.
Can we do 3? And that way, let's just spend 5 minutes together in groups, and then we'll come back so that we can talk about, so we can share out or debrief and then do Q&A.
Absolutely. I can have this, it'll be 2 to 3 people, I think. But depending on numbers, we may end up having a couple pairs as opposed to just all trios. All right, here we go.
Here we go. So can I share my screen again here, Sean?
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here's your tip. Grace. You've got to give yourself grace. When I go into these conversations, I hear people say, but I get it wrong so often, Kim. Listen, I think I've shared 3 mistakes that I've made with you all on this call. I get it wrong every day. And every day I'm learning, and every day I'm getting better, and every day I'm growing. And so you've got to give yourself grace. Here's what I mean. It's okay for you to say, you know what? Somebody calls you and says, did you see what happened on the news? It's okay for you to say, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth today, so I'm not going to watch it. That's giving yourself grace. When you mess up and you have a slip up and somebody calls you on it, and you say, you know what? I don't even have the energy to create an excuse for you. I don't know why I said that. There's probably some bias in there somewhere. I'm sorry. I'll get better. Give yourself grace. I tell people, give yourself the grace that you would give to me if I made the mistake. Give yourself grace. Yes, that's in your doggy bag. Tip number 3. I want to hear what you all, what do you have? How was this experience talking about encounters? What came up for you? Anything that you feel comfortable sharing out with a large group? Or if you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer those questions. And I'm keeping an eye on the time because I know it's lunchtime there. So what do you have?
I can go. My name is Sarah. So something that I talked about was my experience personally growing up with my mom. My mom is Colombian, and she identifies as Hispanic, where I identify as Hispanic, but I am white passing. So something I really came to terms with growing up is like, and as I got older and still even now, is people perceive me differently and assume things about me that are different in comparison, like, to my mom, who looks very indigenous. Like, she is complexion wise darker than me. She also does have an accent when speaking, because English is her second language. And one thing I think about is people just assume that she is not as intelligent because of her accent, when my mom is very intelligent. She went to law school and she is a practicing lawyer. So that's just something that I'm aware of. Like, that's a layer of my identity that I was, I guess my privilege there is the color of my skin. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. I had a meeting recently with a girl who identifies as, she's white passing, and she's half white, half Mexican. And nobody knows that she's not completely white. And so she feels this internal struggle constantly that she has to announce that. She has to announce that, right? Because people are treating her based on what they see. And she's got a parent, right? And a whole side of her family that's from Mexico. And so she gets to hear a lot of the things that are said about Mexicans when people don't think they're talking to a Mexican. And so it's, yeah, I hear that. I hear that story a lot. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Oh, we got a quiet group. That's okay. All questions are good questions. I'm not paying attention, I would say, in the chat. So I think if there's anything in the chat, you all let me know. What else do you want to know? We've got 10 minutes left. Anybody else got a question, or they want me to expand on something a little bit before we go? Anybody?
Yeah, feel free to unmute if you had a question or if you wanted to share. Andrea?
Hi, I guess I can share mine. Wait, let me lower my hand. Also, Sarah's story resonates with me because obviously I am Hispanic, but I do also get like Moroccan, and people think I'm Indian also at the same time, which is cool. But a lot of Hispanic people come up, like run up to me here at the center and will speak Spanish, and I have to say I don't speak Spanish because well, I think I shared this last time, I don't know, in another MRPA training session. I am adopted. My parents are Irish American, so they speak English in the home. They adopted 4 children from Latin America, so I had a brother and sister who they speak Spanish, but I never learned it really well. I don't know why, but I understand a lot of it. I just don't feel comfortable speaking it. So I feel like I'm being a bad Hispanic when I can't speak Spanish back to them. And I feel like I'm judged a lot because of that. So that's that.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, and again, that's because we have these like constructs, these stories, these narratives that we are handed that, oh my gosh, of course, updates. These stories that we are handed that we're not allowed to question and interrogate and wrestle with. Like, what does it mean to be a bad Hispanic, right? What does it mean that English is your first language and not Spanish? And is that okay, given the way that you look? And is that level of okayness, I just made up that word, is that okay for Sarah and not for you? Right? Because Sarah doesn't, quote unquote, look Hispanic, right? And so we've got to start looking, or owning, or acknowledging is the word I'm looking for. We've got to start acknowledging the scripts that we've been handed and just passed down from generation to generation, right? And we've got to start interrogating them. We've got to be willing to question them and to toss them out like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why do we even say that? No, I'm throwing that one out. No, no, right? And I'll give you a great example. And I love to give this example because I was at home in the state of Maryland when September the 11th happened, right? And we just passed that anniversary. And there was so much violence against the Muslim community after that happened. And just a few years ago, we were passing through. Now, listen, I am a director with a very outward facing life, right? I do presentations all over this country, and right, my name and my face is before the public a lot. I've got a book coming out in January, right? My name is out there, my face is out there. My mom and I are passing through a building, and my mom says, in a very loud voice, looks like a lot of terrorists live here. And first of all, I wanted to die. Okay, I was like, what? I was like, wait, whoa, what is happening right now? And I stopped her and I said, Mom, what do you mean? A lot of terrorists live here. Who has raised their hand and showed you their ID badge that says my name is Kim and I'm a terrorist, right? Like, who did that? And I had to say, what do you mean? And she said, well, look. And she points, and it gets worse, right? She points over at a woman who's wearing a hijab. And she says, well, see, you have a lot of terrorists living here. I was like, Mom, the word you are looking for is Muslim. And I'm sorry that the Muslim faith has been equated to terrorism. You know, that is the only thing you think of when you think of Islam. And please never say that ever again in your life. Your daughter is a diversity, equity, and inclusion director. You literally can never say that again, right? And so we had to have this conversation about, but guess what? The United States, through social media, through the news, through whatever, the radio that we were listening to when this happened, said these people are terrorists. They put a blanket statement over an entire group of people, right? And I grew up as a part of the Christian faith, and there have been some really great and well-known Christians that have done some pretty awful stuff in the past. And no one has put the blanket statement of Christians are terrorists on the Christian community, right? So we have to be willing to acknowledge, wait a minute, that's a script that was handed to me that doesn't make any sense. I reject that. I reject that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, no, you are not a bad Hispanic. And as someone who studied language professionally, comprehension always comes before speaking, right? If you've raised a child, you know that the kid understands you before they start saying things that make sense to you, right? They can understand the commands that you're giving them, but they can't necessarily respond in an audible and comprehensible way to you. And so understanding always comes before the confidence to speak. Yep. So please don't feel bad about that. Please don't feel bad about that. All right, somebody else. Wait, let's see. I can't see the name. I see your face, but I can't see your name.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Yes,
So,
Nancy. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, so in a job previous to this, I was in New York on a subway with my supervisor. And he turned to me, we were on the subway with a lot of ethnic people. And some of them were Jewish men with, you know, the top hats and the coats and everything. And he turned to me and he said, why are all Jewish people so cheap? All these gentlemen have bag lunches. And so I turned to him, not knowing that I was Jewish. And I said to him, it's not that they're cheap, but they keep kosher. So they can't buy lunch where they're going. They need to bring lunch. And I knew that I could have reacted in a number of different ways. And as I was telling Ovan earlier, is that I chose to take the high road and educate versus, you know, getting angry at him for assuming that all Jewish people are cheap and we tend to bring a sack lunch. Because it is for dietary restrictions and not because people are cheap.
Yes. Thank you for saying that, Nancy. And I love that you talk about the negotiation that you had. Like, I could have been angry and responded in this way, but I chose this way, right? And sometimes when those incidents stack and stack and stack and stack and stack, right? Then you come off angry and people are like, "Whoa, Nancy is so angry." But it's because somebody said something about Jewish people yesterday and last week and last month and last year. And those moments have piled up and you're like, listen, I can't take this no more. Because people don't look at you and see, oh, Nancy's Jewish, so I'm not going to say those things around Nancy, right? And so thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for taking that moment to teach, because that's exhausting. That's exhausting. There's a running joke in our family about where I actually just had someone ask me, who was that was talking about accents? Sarah. I just had someone a couple weeks ask me, you know, Kim, are you Black? Look at my hair, folks. Can y'all see my hair? I am Black through and through. Okay. And she said, well, you know, sometimes when you talk, it sounds like Spanish might have been your native tongue. And I started laughing. I said, I fly under the radar most of the time, but Spanish is my second native tongue. I started speaking fluently when I was a toddler. So sometimes in the way that I speak English, especially if I'm tired, you can tell that I grew up speaking more than one language. And there's a running joke in our family as to where we're really from, because we've been accused of being from Guatemala, from Colombia, from the Dominican Republic, from Costa Rica. There's a whole list, Nicaragua, a whole list of places we've been accused of being from. And I am from the nation's capital, like some of you on this call. So I think my time is up with y'all. I hope that you will stay in touch. I hope that I'll see you next Tuesday. I really do. And I'm going to give it back to Sean and Ovan because I am out of time. This has been so great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you too, Kimberlee, and thanks everyone for attending today. I'm going to go through just a couple quick things to close us out. We're going to have a session evaluation sent out very shortly. So when that comes to your email inbox, please do us a favor and fill that out. At the end of that eval, there's going to be a portion that asks if you attended today for CEUs. If you did, go ahead, put your info in there. and you'll be provided with your code. And again, thanks to everybody. If anyone's not already signed up for the second session, I'm going to go ahead and throw a link in the chat real quick, and I'll leave the group open for a couple minutes so we can make sure people can get there if they haven't already. And then we have another session coming up the Tuesday after that. So this is a 3-part series. So if you have coworkers, you have friends that you did not see in here today, we're going to try to hustle and get this recording up on our YouTube right away. Send them that link, tell them they need to watch it, send them this link, tell them they need to sign up for the next 2, and let's see how many people we can get next time around. So again, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and see you next week.